I said, this is one of those things you just do and you're like, don't have too high expectations, right? And so I went for my night duty. And after I went for my night duty, we used to go 4 nights work, 4 nights off. So when I came back, like after a month, is when I decided to log into the Facebook. And I did get a response. I did. A very interesting response. And the gentleman said, Lulu, we have been looking for you for a very long time, right? So maybe just to be able to make it more, I'd like to share the same, because these are charts that I've kept all along, because for me, not once, not twice, I do actually go to them. Here, his name is Gerald Kahenda. Gerald Kahenda is actually my brother, firstborn of my dad, and my stepmom, Joy. So Gerald Kahenda, right here. Yeah, right here. Right here. Ooh. Yeah, actually it's here. Actually, this is like 18th of April 2012. You can see the hour, 02:33. So this is the time I was just like, what? I need to call. And it is, hi, my name is Elizabeth, and I noticed your last name Gahenda sounds Rwandese. My biological dad by the name Saulo Gahenda is one I would love to meet after 32 years. So I put in my name, and or rather my number. And this is June. 19th June. It's actually 2 months down. And he says, hi, Elizabeth. Noticed your message today, and it's nice to finally see you. Mom had told me you have a sister, but she didn't know where you are. I called home and explained to her and gave her your number. Would you mind calling her? Because I didn't know how to tell dad. So here's the number, and Hope is now dad's wife's number. So, and this is very interesting because here, don't mind. Yeah. Hi, bro. Hope you don't mind. Just read your mail. It's so late and I'm tempted to call now. It's the only missing link in my life, and God knows how long I have waited. We'll do so more about that. So, something very interesting I'll tell you about this friend. If you look at the time is 02:01, right? Now, 02:01, yes, I'm at work, and I'm thinking, yeah, this one is it's quite ungodly to call at this hour, right? And that day, once again, it was abnormally calm that night, and knowing it's quite a busy hospital. So that day, this is how I was. My hand was like this, my face was fixated on the wall clock, right? And I was just waited until at least some time that looked a bit good, like 6 a.m. that I could call. And yes, 6 a.m. sharp, I pressed the dial. And when I pressed it, a very pleasant lady picked up the phone. And I said, hi, my name is Elizabeth Wamwea. I'm Lulu. I'm your daughter. I think I'm your daughter. And she was like, oh, she burst into some praise, and you could evidently hear that she was happy. And of course, for purposes of authenticity, is to ask questions like, okay, all of us have to be very sure before you once again disappointed, like they really got disappointed the other time, right? And so also after the verification bit, something very interesting. I worked in Nairobi Women's Hospital in Rongai. Coincidentally, my father has been living in Rongai from 1993. So when Hope, that is my stepmom, called and asked me, so where are you at? And I said, Nairobi Women's. And she asked me, which branch? And I said, Rongai. And she said, what? That's the hospital we come to. And I'm thinking, huh? Okay. And she asked me, so where do you live? By then we had already built our home. And coincidentally, if you were to use that particular footpath from her explanation, you actually had to pass Dad's gate. So in short, I actually passed through that gate not once, not twice, but like for a year or so. This was just too much and too overwhelming to bear, and we left it at that. And I asked, wait a minute, we've spoken so much for close to like half an hour. I've not heard anything about Dad. Is he still alive? Is he there? And my stepmom said, yes. I think Freddie saw that part of June 19th. Actually, it was just a few days to Dad's 50th birthday, right? And apparently, at that particular point, Dad was in a moment of just praise and worship, because for them, they knew or they had heard that I had died some years back. So this is not something that really was going to, it was not something that would come up at any particular point. And so we left it at that. I didn't tell anyone because now I had to be very sure of all this. And I finished my night duty. I still had one night to come back to, but when I went to sleep to rest for the day, I went and I sat and I just pondered about all that information that I have, about the conversation I have had with Mom Hope. And then that evening, as I was going for night duty, I went in, I'm just doing the rounds, and I'm told that you have a visitor. That didn't click too much because that it would be them, because normally if there's anything that needs to be sorted at the hospital at that particular time, I'd be called upon to assist. But something very interesting is that as I walked down the stairs and I go down at the reception, I see a gentleman and a lady, and something just told me that's him. Tall, chocolate, and something, it was the most, I can still visualize it to date at the reception area. And it was such a moment that I had never had in my life. We all hugged together. Luckily, once again, thank God it was calm at the hospital, and you got a place to go and sit down. And one thing that Dad told me was, Lulu, I never, ever, ever neglected you or ran away from you at all, at all. So the good thing also, I knew later on, of course, I'd known from Mom that by that time, Mom was the bit of maybe cultural marriage, considering that these are two diverse cultures, one being Kikuyu Kenyan, the other being Rwandese, was not something that was really acceptable, especially those days, by the grandparents and especially Dad's parents. So somehow that did not work out. And I must say that also talking to Dad, I also realized that this is somebody who was really diligent, because still, even after trying to maybe wait on for 2 years, he still went back to my mom and explained to her that, I have moved on and I'm moving on, and maybe if you'd want, you could give us also the daughter, that is me, to take, so we can stay together. And of course, I stayed with my mom. And from there, I think at that time I was about 2 years old. Yeah, I was 2. And everyone, I think just after everyone went to their different directions, that kind of like fizzled off. So when he told me that, it was such an emotional moment. And especially Fred, at that particular time, 2012, is when my marriage was quite in another, I don't even know where we were at. It was a tough time in my life. And even as Dad said that he feels bad, he was never there for me when I was young. For me, I tend to believe that he came in at the right time when I had to really make I needed guidance. And later on, he would be the one who would be able to hold my hand, even when I had to transition from my marriage earlier. And even when that happened, I think for me, we got to meet up with Dad. He also organized a meeting, a get together for the family members, a couple of family members from his side, I got to meet them. It was a beautiful evening, and we got to chat and know one another more. And it was a good thing. I think for me, I felt there was some serious closure, extremely, some great, great closure. So maybe now, so I can say that even to add upon that, a father is a key person in any of our lives. As I'd earlier said, having come from now transitioned from marriage life and now to single parenthood, I actually stayed with my dad for 6 weeks. And staying with my father gave me also a very different view about men. I think for me, I had really gotten my own preconceived thought that that's how everyone is. But here I am, I'm seeing a man who loves his family, a man who's the priest of the home, who still has embraced me and my children to stay with him for that duration. I remember one conversation that I think will forever be etched in my mind, and he told me, "My daughter Lulu, you are never, or you were never meant to be timid. You were never meant to have any lack of confidence. No, you are such a strong woman. You need to realize yourself. You don't need to go back to that bit of feeling pained." And there's something about the words of affirmation, and especially when they come from a father, they lift you up in a way that you cannot explain. I look at from the duration that I have met my father to date, which is about now, give it about 7 years or so. And indeed, I have come to realize myself more. I've come to enhance my self-worth. I have become more confident of myself. I have come to realize who I am. I've gotten to know the real purpose of life. I have gotten to interact more even with those who are married. Oh, not to forget, I've done a couple of mama cakey things. A lot of cakes, meaning that I still am a believer in great marriages and relationships, albeit challenges that are usually there. And I think through my father, I have seen to date the way he has held together his family, the way they view him. He has really brought about children who are very, very confident. So indeed, for me, I think it also helped me in transitioning to this other phase of my life, which I really, really like now, right? That even as I bring up my kids and as I stay with them, even as a single parent, I do not have any bitterness. If anything, I ensure that they have a very good relationship with their father. They are able to visit anytime they need to. And in that case, I think it has also really assisted in ensuring that they also grow up whole. I would not want them to come up into a position where they'll have to grow up with question marks of, yes, so is he dead? Yes or no? And if he's alive, why? I do not want the children to go into a situation of self-doubt, lack of confidence, because for real, a father figure is important.